Hello, everyone. This is Professor Francis, and I am here to do an algebra question, quadratic equation, requested by our students. So let's get started. So here they're asking us to solve the quadratic equation, right? Y squared plus y plus 3, right? And they say that they want us to write all the solutions in the form A plus BI. So that should give us a clue right away that whenever we convert something to an I format, we're usually starting off with a negative square root. So we're going to end up with a negative under the square root, right? They want us to use a quadratic formula. So the quadratic formula I have written over here to the right. Let's see if I can show you right here, right? And this is a general quadratic formula. Given an equation, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, we can find the value of x by determining the coefficients a, b, and c, plugging them into the quadratic equation, and then simplifying. So let's go ahead and do that. Well, how do we determine the coefficients? Well, we simply use our general formula. We'll write it right over the given question. So we have ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Okay, and then we align the coefficients a, b, and c with whatever coefficients they are for the corresponding terms. Here we have a squared term of x, we have a squared term of y, so a is going to equal that, the y's coefficient, which is, if there's nothing written, it's a 1. Okay, same thing with the b, right? The b is going to be equal to the y's coefficient, right? Note this y is not squared, and this x is not squared. So that b is going to be equal to, again, there's no number there, so by default it's 1. And c will be equal to 3. Okay, so now that we have the values of a, b, and c, we can go ahead and plug them into the formula and simplify. All right. When we do that, let's write out the formula first. We have minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. This is the formula. Now we're going to go ahead and plug in the values. And we're just going to do this very mechanically. We're going to make brackets everywhere we want to replace a letter with a number. That's very important. That way we don't get our signs mixed up when we're substituting. Okay. And then in the bottom, we have 2 times a. Now we're going to go ahead and mechanically plug in the values. So here and here, we see that we have b. Our value of b is 1. So we're going to put a 1 here and a 1 here. Okay, in the top and bottom here, we see we have our value is a. So we're going to go ahead, the value to replace a with is 1. So we're going to put a 1 here and a 1 here. And finally, here we have a value of c. So we're going to go ahead and plug in the value that replacing c, which is 3. We'll plug that in here. Now we're ready to simplify, right? And remember, we're following PEMDAS when we're simplifying. We have to take care of the parentheses first, right? So out here, whenever you have a minus sign outside of a bracket, that indicates an invisible 1. So this is -1 times this positive 1. That's going to give you a -1. All right, let's draw our division bar here. Okay, plus or minus square root of, right? Before we do that, before we go into that exponent, let's take care of the bracket in the bottom. We have 2 times 1 is 2. And now this square root is considered an exponent, so we do that next. Right, we go inside of this exponent, and now we have to look at PEMDAS again, right? And we see what we do, if remember PEMDAS here, we're following that order of operation when we're simplifying, right? So this is exponents, this is parenthesis, which we just did, right? Multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. This is the order we must do the operations in. So we come inside this square root, which is considered an exponent, and then we see another exponent, so we do that first. 1 squared is just 1 times 1, which gives you 1. And now we're going to take care of the multiplication. So we have 3 numbers to multiply, so we start with the 4. Now, you have a subtraction sign here, because it's part of the formula. That's fine, but that's really for subtraction is really for show. What we're really doing is that subtraction is going to be the sign of the number directed to right of it. So the 4 is to the right of it. So we're going to multiply this -4 times a +1. That's going to give us a negative, right? Negative, when we multiply opposite signs, we get a negative, and then we multiply the numbers. 4 times 1, that gives us 4. So that gives us a -4. Now we're going to multiply that -4, right? So these two are a -4. We're going to go ahead and multiply that -4 by a +3. So again, when multiplying opposite signs, we always end up with a negative. So our sign is going to be negative, and then we multiply the numbers. 4 times 3 is 12. Right. That's how we do that. We have to be very careful when we're doing arithmetic here because it's very easy to mix up the signs when you're doing these types of problems. Let's put this back here. I just wanted to make it a little bit shorter. But remember, this whole thing, remember we're solving for y. So this equals y, right? Y equals what the quadratic formula ends up giving us. Right. Okay. And now we're going to simplify underneath the square root again, right? So we're going to get y equals -1 plus or minus. We'll have all of this over 2. And square root of, what's 1 minus 12? Well, when we have opposite signs, we keep the sign of the larger number, right? This addition or subtraction of signed numbers. And then we take the difference. So the difference between 1 and 12 is 11. All right. So just as we expected in the beginning, when they asked us to write everything in A plus BI format, we know when they ask that, we usually end up with a negative under the square root, and we do have square root of a -11. So we're going to have to convert that to I format in order to put the equation, and the answer is the solution in A plus BI format. And we remember how to do that. If we just take the square root of -11 on the side, right, we're going to factor out the -1. So it's 11 times -1. Separate the factors. So the square root of 11 times the square root of -1. And then we're going to simplify, right? Now, since 11 is not a perfect square, it's going to stay as is, right? But we know the new number, I, equals the square root of -1. So we can simplify square root of -1 to simply I. That gives us a format. Remember what I said. Whenever we have a square root and an I multiplying by each other, we want to put the I on the left side of the square root so it doesn't look like it's underneath the square root. So we're going to write this as I square root of 11, right? And now we're going to go ahead. This is the equivalent of the square root of a -11 is I square root of 11. We're going to go ahead and put this answer in A plus BI format by replacing the square root of -11 with this I square root of 11. So it's going to be y equals -1 plus or minus I square root of 11 over 2. And this is our answer. This is an A plus BI format. Okay, so I hope that helped everyone, right? If it did, please remember to like and subscribe so we can continue sending you these very helpful videos. And I'll see you on the next question.